Hello Dream Team, welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, brought to you by our very good friends at Continental Tires. In the very wise words of a certain Johnny May, there's no good news and there's no bad news, there's just news. And there are a number of headlines around the game at the moment, none bigger than that of Owen Farrell. It has been confirmed that he is off to Racing in July on a 2-year deal to play in Paris under the guidance of Stuart Lancaster, the man who, of course, gave him his England debut back in 2012. Such big news that actually we have done a special on that. So if you'd like the instant reaction to Owen Farrell heading to Paris in July, have a little look at that on YouTube. But in the main show this week, we're going to get into the rest of the sports headlines, including the fact that the England squad has been named. We'll be picking a 15 to take on Italy and to react to the appointment of Jamie George as England captain. Rees-Zammit is off to the NFL to pursue his American dream. Can Joe Schmidt turn Australia around in time for the Lions tour next year? Plus, we'll talk all things club rugby, including reflection on the Champions Cup pool stages. But first tonight, we start with the England squad, which has been named. Let's go to our correspondent, Mike Tyndall. Are you pleased with what you have seen
They've got to insert the bongs between that.
Yeah, I've left space for the bongs.
Yeah, I thought you did. I just didn't know if Tom, our producer, picked up on it because sometimes he drifts off. You know, like you see someone who's had like a big lunch and they just sort of go like he looks like a member of Parliament. Just like after a big lunch, it's the 4 o'clock session. He's like this. What? No, Continental Tires. Who mentions Continental? Domino's Pizza. No, Tommy
Hilfiger. To the left say aye. Right, yeah. Back on track. Right. What you're trying to do here is divert from all talk of England squad and rugby. You can't do that.
It's like a child at school. It's like that kid, just drops everything on the floor, so he doesn't have to do maths. Keeps getting up. Can I get a coffee? Tea? God,
I need the loo. That's the fifth time, James. Sit down.
My mate shed blew down. Yeah. Things fall on the floor again.
Right. Bong. Mike Tyndall, let's go live to our correspondent on the other side of the room and say thoughts on the squad, please, Michael.
Look, I think there are some people who've fought their way back in. It's good sort of Beno Obano, Ben Spencer. I've waxed lyrically of Ben Spencer for a bit of time, and finally, I think with having Finn Russell there, he's got the credit he deserves. There is a good mixture of well-established names and some guys with a few caps and some uncapped players joining the fray who've been pulling up trees for their clubs. So,
and some people that weren't on the radar at all. Like, hold on, I'll find out my piece of paper. Chandler Cunningham South.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I wasn't on anyone's radar.
Well.
Ethan Roots is definitely someone who's come right up.
Levi Roots doing reggae sauce and playing for England. This is unbelievable. No, but again, he's another one. So that's what I mean. I think it's amazing we're blooding so many kind of new faces.
So that is the question, really. Do you take what England achieved in France at 2023 and build on it, adapt it, sort of develop what that was, or is this a blank sheet of paper and you are starting a brand new team?
So I feel you've got to take stuff out of the World Cup, but you've also got to put a realistic spin on it. We have seen through the Champions Cup recently that our players can mix it, right? Yep. We've got 6 into the final 16. We've had some unbelievable performances, from Harlequins this weekend, Northampton in terms of what they did, turning over Munster. I think big people have stood up with their performances as well. You look at Mitchell, Finn Smith on the weekend. Obviously, Marcus Smith, how he played, Danny Kerr. To name but a few, there are lots. Maro Itoje on the weekend was unbelievable. But my biggest question for England is the team is irrelevant depending on how you play.
Right.
So
put that into the context of, do you build on France 2023 where England kicked the most and played the most conservative rugby? Is this a complete sea change, starting again?
No,
for the next 4 year cycle?
Of course it's not a sea change, because as we know, the team that actually kicks the most has the greatest percentage of chance of winning. England's biggest work on from the World Cup, their attack game wasn't great. If you watch the product that is in Premiership and Champions Cup at the moment, the skill sets are incredible.
Yeah.
And we need to let the England players go and do that on an international stage within the structure that fits into international rugby.
Let's pick a 15 in just a moment. But Jamie George, as skipper, who has spoken really passionately about being utterly desperate to connect this team back to the fans again, which was obviously a problem pre-World Cup. The pride that they showed in the performance against South Africa has definitely brought it back again. But I think everybody in England wants to get behind this team for it to be a new chapter. Jamie's spoken very passionately about that. As the man you know, what do you make of the appointment?
Yeah, I think, look, he's a brilliant man, a fantastic player, incredibly skillful.
He's so good in front of camera.
Yeah.
So I am, what we talked about pre-World Cup, no player ever being the front, no one's ever hasn't been the front of this team in terms of being out there in front of a camera, giving a real view of what's going on. Jamie George is the perfect captain. He'll be honest. He'll tell it he'll tell it in the way of the lads. He can actually, hopefully, nothing against Steve. We won't be hearing from Steve. We'll be hearing from Jamie George, and then hopefully the other players will follow suit, and we'll actually find out more about this England team.
Yeah.
I was just having a thought, actually, because before we got into this...
dangerous.
Very dangerous. The last time we were all together, three best friends, I said I thought Ellis Genge would be captain. Actually goes back into what I just said about Jamie George. If you were going to pick a new chapter, so you've got new coaching staff, obviously
Felix Jones has come in. Yep.
Take defence. Sinfield's been moved on to skills, soon to be. I know the details. Unbelievable. He's obviously moved out after the Six Nations.
Yeah, maybe the New Zealand tour, but
maybe Schmidt's details. If you picked Ellis Genge as captain, who I think is an unbelievable captain, and I think should captain England because of his personality, it's still edges. Do you know what I mean? If you wanted a smoothness of transition, so if we've learned anything at the moment. There's rough waters around rugby. There's rough waters around England, or there was. We've lost a couple of players because of it. We're trying to be on this positive take. Some of the writers who slagged are now saying that we all should be nice. It's a funny sort of cycle of life's going round.
Yep.
I think if you made Ellis Genge captain, there's edges because he wouldn't always play the party line. Wouldn't toe it. I think Jamie will be his own man. But because he's such a good guy, it's actually interesting you see that this is obviously a concerted effort.
I mean, there's some really, really good quotes in here. There's a way of connecting with the fans off the field as well as through the way that we act with the media, through social media, and through the way we speak and talk to grassroots clubs, and to bring those guys on a journey with us, because I want England fans to feel part of this England team, says Jamie. It means a lot to me because when I've sat there as a fan myself, I felt part of the team. I want everyone to feel that way and go on the journey with us. So some really, really nice. I mean, it does feel like they are very, very conscious that there is a big piece of work that needs to be done between team and supporters.
I think you're right. Look, I think Jamie's very intelligent. He's very articulate. He's got unbelievable skills. Incredible player, respected by everybody. I think what's interesting is, for me, this is the real start of Steve Borthwick's journey with this team and a kind of a new clean sweep. And I think there's a lot of lessons learned. I think especially from the way the media and the way the fans and the social media interact with the team. I think, the stuff around Owen, the stuff around the way that the stuff conducted in the World Cup. I think this is a perfect kind of moment to draw a line under it. We've got a new team with some new players and some old heads. We've got a new captain, which, in the best will in the world, you can't not like Jamie George. You can't, he's got no edges to him. Physically, he's like a weevil, but there's nothing to dislike about him. And I think for me, he's positive. I think this is a very exciting moment to get into a Six Nations. There's always can sometimes feel like a little bit of a lull after a World Cup, but there are some lot of broken hearts in this mix, and a lot of teams that have got to kick on and really improve and make a difference. And I'm really positive about all of it. I think there's some players that we're not that familiar with. There's old heads coming back in the mix. There's guys who are desperate to get 100 caps. Danny Kerr being on fire.
Five away, I think he is.
Yeah, 96 he's got.
96.
I don't even look at the sheet. You don't even need to look at the sheet. I'm on it. Don't worry about it.
It's just a detail. I'm
a detail man. Yeah. So I'm just very excited, and I think we can be really upbeat about it. I think Steve, obviously when he first came in, there's talk of Eddie having a hangover and adjusting players, limited time, coming to World Cup a bit more time, trying to pick up some selections. We've got a few. Actually, I think with this squad as well, it's telling about who's not been in it. Joe Cocker-Singer, Max Malin's
been brilliant this season for Bale.
Yeah.
Great.
I think it's quite strange that he's not in there.
Max Malins again. Billy V. Obviously, Mako retired. A big note for Mako. What a player! Almost reinvented the position.
9 Lions tests as well, which sort of goes under the radar a bit because he wasn't a big kind of showman or orator.
But he, the way he played, he dragged every other loose head up with him to play in the style that he played because he played
Proper
a bit
baller.
like a Kiwi. A baller, footballer, dummy, dominant. I mean, he slapped me and called me a pussy when I didn't score against Ireland. And I went, fuck are you doing? It's like, next job, bro. So you don't get to do that. It's not like you say, oh, no offence, but you're a prick. You can't bollock me and then go, calm down, ass.
Well, obviously he'd realised that so many people had said that to you. It hadn't made a difference, so he had to slap you.
He was wasting his time. I think as well, one player I'm very surprised at, Alfie Barber. I don't know whether he's injured or whether he was going to get banned or why he's not involved, because he's been doing some amazing work.
He did get a red card, didn't he?
I think there might be an issue with that. And then Zach Mercer. Obviously, the big comeback, the big return. I haven't seen a lot of him play for Gloucester. I know he had that ankle injury. He's come back. He quotes saying, I just don't feel like he values what I can offer as a player. That's me being honest. I just don't think he values what I can bring. I mean, imagine
That's
coming
not gonna
back.
help his cause.
No, unfortunately not. But we asked players to speak their mind, and actually, he's played nice. And in rugby, we're very humble and polite. Zach Mercer turned down being one of the best players in France to come back here to get an opportunity to play for England. And he's not getting any love. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't watch his game enough to know why he would be there.
It doesn't help when Gloucester lose 9 on the bounce to the Premiership or whatever it is, 8 on the bounce.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's always more helpful if you're playing on a team that's winning because you normally play better. But he's only been back for the last 6 weeks or something, more than maybe 7 weeks. So I think he's still got a road to come through. It's not an automatic thing because he hasn't really got any caps to fall back on.
Let's come back to that. Should we pick a team?
Yeah.
With the caveat that this is the team you would love to see, not the team you think will be picked. And how are they going to play before you pick the team?
They are going to play a very fast. They're going to protect their own end. They're going to still have a plan, but they're going to play high tempo. I want Danny Kerr, Marcus Smith tapping from their own 22 if they think it's on.
Okay.
We've seen that over 2 weekends where actually if you just put your head up and you find that there is actually you've got numbers, you can score.
So you want your team to be brave, to go for it whilst being nasty
so intent,
and good
intent, high tempo, and unrelenting in their speed of how they want to attack.
Loose heads, Joe Marler, Ellis Genge, Ben Urbana, who you've touched on already. Last appearance against Canada in the USA 2021 and played against Scotland that year, Six Nations.
And he's made a couple of documentaries in between.
Yeah, he has. One to start, one to bench, one to potentially play the week after.
I still think the Baby Rhinos.
Baby Rhino one
is unbelievable.
Do we know what Joe can do, and therefore we want to see what Ben Urbana can do?
Yeah, we love Joe Marler, but how old's Joe now?
33.
He's been around quite a long time.
He's retired 4 times.
Yeah.
So he's been around longer than that.
And then he doesn't go when you fully expect him to.
Yeah. Interesting when you're going around props. Obviously, Joe's been unbelievable for the game, but then there was a lot of hype around Sales, Pokey Fujur. About how good he's been. And I think Joe Marler actually said he's playing at a different level. What he can do things I could never do.
Yeah.
Should we be
we'll see him
introducing
in that England A game against Portugal?
Possibly.
Okay, so we'll start
Ellis. Yeah.
Ben on the bench. Jamie George will start at 2, obviously. Interestingly, and good to see Luke Cowan Dickey back, but Theo Dan was one of the fast movers. If we're doing top of the pops, was a high riser at the World Cup.
Yeah, and his recent form
at the weekend.
Right, he is just so aggressive when he carries, and we need that.
So
I know
who gets your bench spot?
Theo Dan is just what we need.
A nice little Sarries duo there as well. Tight heads. Welcome back, Dan Cole, yet again, 107 not out. Will Stewart and Joe Hayes. And obviously the big person missing there is obviously Carl Sinclair. He hasn't missed a tackle this season.
He did. He got 69 out of 69, Alex.
Thank you, James.
I think.
So on the basis that you know what Joe can do, we love him for all that he's done for the game, but we want to see what other options are out there. Does that apply to Dan Cole, or do you start with the heavy anvil?
Yes.
So you're going Will Stewart to start, Joe Hayes on bench?
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends, because obviously Italy, would you give that opportunity to Joe Hayes? But then Dan Cole, he played well in that World Cup.
Yeah,
he was good, and he's still playing well. If you need some experience, because scrums are so volatile at the moment. If you get a referee that's doing you in a bit, you're on the back foot. Having someone like Dan Cole, you can just wheel on the big Kohler bet.
Yeah, maybe.
I do understand with a tight head about just getting your job done.
Yep.
So I don't. As much as I think we need to move on, you still need a solid platform. So whatever gives you
the
that.
thing is that this England team needs to win. You can't blood a whole load of youngsters and drop the ball.
Well, hold on. That's what we're talking. That's what he said. Because
you can't train in the Six Nations was your quote.
No, I know. Was that my quote?
Well, Tim said it. One of you two said it before we started recording.
No, you can't be finding out your team in the Six Nations.
But
also Will Stewart's got 33 caps now.
Yeah.
And
he's been playing well for Bath.
And Bath are playing some unbelievable rugby.
Okay. So what's the answer to the question?
Well, Will Stewart and Dan Cole.
So you've gone back to Dan Cole?
No, I would take Joe Hayes.
I'll go Dan Cole.
Because you've either got to start Dan Cole.
Let's do two different teams, and then we can compare and contrast and vote for them.
Fine.
Second row, Marrow straight in.
Yeah.
I saw one or two actually saying the other day, is his place under threat for the first time? And then he comes out and he scores a couple of bangers against the and everyone goes, shh, okay, sit down. It's a real shame George Martin isn't there.
Yeah.
But Ollie Chesham to partner Marrow, Alex Coles and Nick Ezekwe, the two other options.
Yeah, I think Ollie Chesham, to be fair, did well in that World Cup.
Yeah.
And I think he deserves to. I know he came off on the weekend, but he deserves probably his chance to continue that.
He's a top line operator in the Premiership in terms of how much he's used and how much ball he turns over.
It's amazing how much information you've studied.
It is. It's like I watch every minute of every
game. Our line-out correspondent.
Yeah, thank you.
Who gets your bench spot, Alex Coles or Nick Ezekwe? Would you go with a heavy back row?
I wonder if you don't put Alex Coles on.
He's had a run before, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has a run, but I think that was under Eddie. I think he kind of got blooded and then wasn't seen again. I think he's got back into. He's probably obviously tasted and wants to play well. I think if you're going to bring someone on to add a different element, then maybe Alex Coles.
This Northampton outfit are packed full of confidence right now as well.
That's what I mean.
That's quite a good thing. Okay. Marrow and Ollie into the second row. Alex Coles on the bench. Nick Ezekwe will see you next week potentially. Back row is I think fascinating because Sam Underhill was mega in that fourth place playoff.
He was unbelievable in that third playoff.
And obviously came in late. He's had a couple of injury problems.
I've put him in just off the back of that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Because of what he can do at his best on his day.
To come back into that game and play like that when you haven't, you've had your injury problems, you haven't really played that much. It just goes back to reminding you of how good he was when he first got captain.
But that's the quality of just obviously those moments where you dip and you don't have faith, and he just comes back and just delivers.
Yeah, and you just don't know the effect of what an injury can have and how you feel in yourself whilst you're trying to get back. And
does he have to play open side, or could you play him at 6?
You could play him at 6. I think play him at 6.
So would you? So presumably Ben Earl holds the 8 shirt. Yeah. So then, do you put Sam Underhill at 6 and pick a Tom Pearson?
I said you could put Pearson at 6, couldn't you?
Okay.
He doesn't need to be 7 either.
Need to be.
I think
you've got a sort of Curry Underhill again, haven't you? Where it's just the kamikaze
twins.
Different
flavour.
Yeah,
it's Ben, not Tom.
Yeah.
See what we've done there.
So
but I think Cunningham South is interesting for Harlequins as well.
He's sort of all action, all court.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Go on.
Because Tom Pearson, I've kind of been watching for Northampton, and he's a big unit. He carries like a machine. He's physical. Underhill, Ben Earl, and Tom Pearson. I'd love to see. Tom Pearson again. I spoke to Steve before the World Cup, and obviously Zach Mercer got left out.
Steve Borthwick.
That is me and Steve
Friends in high places.
We can chat whenever we want. And he was very impressed. But Tom Pearson came in. Obviously, didn't make the World Cup squad, but to have a young kid come into that squad, having never played for England, he liked what he saw.
I get quite excited by this.
And also, you think that we've got those players, but you still don't have your Jack Willis's. You still haven't got your Tom Curry's.
And how good is it to see Jack Willis coming back after that neck injury?
Yeah.
He's played a few games. I mean, I'm so jealous he gets to play for Toulouse, man. So good. Every time I see him, I see that red shirt with that black number and just running. I'm like,
wait till you see his bank balance as well.
I know. See mine.
So we're going Underhill at 7, Earl at 8, and Tom Pearson at 6.
Yeah,
all the other ones.
And then you could,
6.
You could bring Don Brandt on the bench, because if he doesn't go at 8, you can then put him on the second row. If Alex Coles on at 6, if you wanted to, you can swap him in and out.
Now, interestingly, scrum halves: Danny Kerr, Alex Mitchell, and Ben Spencer.
Any of the 3.
What?
Any of the 3, I don't mind.
Okay, but
they're
do
all
you then keep
well.
combinations together? So you start with Danny Kerr and Marcus Smith and bring on Alex Mitchell and Finn Smith.
Well, technically, who says that I'm picking Marcus Smith at 10?
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking the question. So the answer to the question, do you keep combinations, is no.
No, we don't.
Okay, so we'll pick us I mean, you can pick any one of those three.
I think you could generally pick any.
Surely Alex Mitchell has to retain post-World Cups, and he's got credit in the bank.
And also he's been playing amazing.
He played unbelievably well on the weekend.
Danny Care has to be involved. Bench will start 100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think because he's so good.
Right.
But
so Mitchell to start, Care on the bench, Ben Spencer, keep going.
I've raved about Ben Spencer.
You have,
and now you've got the chance to put
I love
him in.
Ben Spencer as well. I play with 3 scrum halves. Really upset.
It's very French.
Confused
play with It's very Springboky.
Yeah.
But Alex Mitchell at hooker, Danny Care at 9.
Good games are relatively.
I'm going to be really harsh on Alex Mitchell after he played so well on the weekend.
You're dropping Alex Mitchell?
Oh, my God.
You take Ben Spencer and Danny Care.
what he did to Munster at the weekend.
I know.
Oh, my God.
That is just doubling that. You've gone all in on back just because.
Yes, I've got on history here and not on what the weekend was. And
Right.
I've raved about Ben Spencer and now he's got a chance. But it happens to be that this is slightly different because there are 2 other guys who are in good form as well. I think you're right. You can't drop Mitchell. And then I'd have DC on the bench.
Do you think this is the most exciting group of 3 scrum halves we've had
for a long time?
Since Dawson, Bracken, and Gomersall.
Yes.
Fly half.
I'd start with Finn Smith.
Marcus Smith or Finn Smith?
I'd go with Finn Smith.
You're going all in on Finn
Do you
Smith.
know why? Just because we know.
Again, you're feeding
well.
on the Northampton and the form
do you know
that
why?
they're
I
in.
tell you what. Listen, look, it's a hard one because obviously, like, if I was actually picking the team, I'd go with Mitchell and I'd go with Danny Care, whichever one, doesn't matter, and sort of Marcus Smith because they work well. But I think playing against Italy. When else do you see an opportunity to start Finn Smith to get that time? Putting and then say you had George Ford on the bench.
You didn't have to start.
But as we said, I think they're going to want to play their full strength team.
Yeah.
And set them up. I would say that I'll pick Ford
to start.
Yeah, but that is because I'm going to pick Marcus at fullback.
Okay. So Finn Smith could have a good run for England at Portugal, boss it, just the next run up the ladder.
Yes, of course. That's probably the most pragmatic decision as opposed to just starting against Italy, like I was going to do.
Bet the house.
But also,
okay, so
I can see the comments now. People going
15.
Yeah, this is for Italy. Yep. Obviously, I think he's going to have more. He's got more time on the ball. I think we saw a glimpse of what he can do from fullback when he's got space to run back at, and how well he can identify space.
Yeah,
I think he's he's got a good boot on him, and I just think he gives you something. And this is no slight against Freddie Stewart, because if you're playing Ireland, Freddie Stewart's in all day long. But I just think for this game and for a couple of other games, he is a very good option for us.
Okay,
but
let's keep going. Thoughts. So forward to start, Smith. So we've picked 3 9s and 2 10s so far.
Good evening. We interrupt this party political nonsense to bring you some breaking news at a critical point of this podcast record, because as Mike and James were selecting an England 15 from what we were told was a fully fit squad, we've obviously pre-produced, packaged up and had a show ready to go into your earballs for Wednesday morning. But just before the show went to air, unfortunately 3 key members of Steve Borthwick's original squad have pulled out. Ollie Lawrence, who's had a great season so far for Bath, Oscar Beard, who unfortunately has succumbed to concussion, and Luke Cowan-Dickey, who's done well to battle back to full fitness and take his place back in the England squad once again. As a result of these withdrawals, it has left our team in absolute disarray, and so with not a moment's notice, Mike Tindall has pulled over from his journey home into a lay-by and reselected a backline. The phone has broken up at several junctures during this conversation, but we think Mike has picked a backline constituting of the following: Alex Mitchell already in at 9, George Ford will remain at 10, and here it gets us lively because Mike has picked Emmanuel Faye-Waboso on one wing for his debut. He's picked Tommy Freeman to wear 12, the first time we understand he's ever worn that shirt, certainly at international level. Good luck to Elliot Daly, who will hold the whole thing together at 13, a position that he hasn't played too much for England, although a position he has wanted to play a lot more for his country. Will Muir straight in from the outside of the squad to start on the other wing, which means we now have 2 debutants at 11 and 14. But the good news is a lot of experience at the back where Marcus Smith will earn his third cap at fullback. Once again, the breaking news: Mike Tindall has selected Alex Mitchell, George Ford, Emmanuel Faye-Waboso and Will Muir on the wings, Marcus Smith at 15, Tommy Freeman and Elliot Daly will wear the shirts of 12 and 13. I think we can safely assume at this point that the abuse will be heavily incoming. I think it's a relief to all of us that Mike Tindall is not in charge of the England team selection. We wish that backline the very best of luck, if that is what it is to be, for the round 1 game against Italy in the 2024 Guinness Six Nations. I don't think we've ever preached that we know too much about the game, and this probably is the show that once and for all fully confirms. That is it from this very short and very quick bit of breaking news. We will now return to the studio for the rest of the show. Thank you for your understanding.
Well done. I think that's quite interesting. It'd be fascinating to see how that compares with the man in the hot seat.
Way off.
I think that is way off.
I think what you'll learn from what he picks is how we're going to play the game.
Okay. I think it's a really fun time.
I think it's very exciting. I could not be more.
Optimism is
positive.
high.
Well, that's what I want sort of Steve to feed off.
Yeah.
Is the optimist and go, right, we're on board with this.
Those are the coming men for England. Should we go to the going man for Wales, Lewis Rees-Zammit, who is obviously off to the NFL, to the international player pathway? Do we like the move? Are we excited for him, or is it a damaging day for rugby?
I'm definitely excited for him.
Off?
I think getting to know him in Monaco, he's that type of guy. Obviously, his missus has got 1.8 million followers on Insta, and I think it's the right time for him. He's 22 years old. I came up with a bit of a left winger that he could do this 10 weeks and then he could possibly just go do a year at college or try and do a college thing. And if he was really serious about it, he could try and go through the college system first and see how he gets on and have some real sort of take on that. But that depends on how he does this 10 weeks. If he goes well in the 10 weeks and a team knocks on his door and said, we want you on a practice squad, I think straight away your practice squad money is between 250,000, 350,000 a year anyway. So suddenly he's not really taking, I know it's dollars, so he's taking a little bit of a hit, but for a chance to, be your Effie Abada that we've had on the pod and suddenly be a free agent and be open for big cash, then it's worthwhile doing, isn't it?
Play? You watch a lot of this. Where's he going to play? Yeah,
it's actually a really difficult question to answer that. And my, he's 6'2", 6'3", maybe.
Yeah.
So it depends on his vertical, which this will all be found out in the end of this 10 weeks when they put them through sort of, it's like I think it's a mini combine. He is lightning. Now, I've been on a group where people have actually questioned, but he's not NFL fast. I believe he is NFL fast. So if you look at Christian Wade, he ran a 4.53 40 yard.
Yeah.
Big difference. We do 40 metres over here. Yeah. They do 40 yard, which is obviously 4 yards shorter.
It's called a great try at the weekend, by the way.
Yeah. And
still got it.
I believe, I spoke to Johnny about this, and he said that Zam's run a 40 metre in under 4.6. So he's going to be coming in, I would imagine, in the low 4.4s, which is quick.
Right.
The average for the NFL is 4.48. I mean, we're talking. This is what the NFL is. It's just numbers that get thrown at you. So he would be above the average of a wing.
Quicker than average.
Yeah, the fastest that I saw that's done it is a 4.22, I think, which is unbelievable. But I'd never heard of the name. So he obviously could run fast, but he couldn't. So the 10 weeks will be about learning route running, how to route run, how to shake it off. My question with him is: would I say he's a physical? Is he physical? Because you have to be now, as a wide receiver, you've got to have that physicality at the line to either to get separation or to play your role in holding off what if there's a run play going your way, you have to be able to block as well. So they're going to be the tricky things for him. And then if you get picked up after that 10 weeks, it becomes the X's and O's about learning all the packages and everything that goes in with that, which is tedious.
What I spoke to Christian Wade about when he was over there was actually just the fact that you are training specifically, for 10 weeks to perform a combine. So in rugby, truthfully, we overtrain these guys, these outside backs. You can attest this, doing actual speed work, pure speed to train for a 40-yard dash. You just wouldn't do it. The heavy workload. So I've not studied what Gloucester's training like, but I would say if it's any experience I've had, teams overtrain. It's hard. It's attritional. The Premiership, international duty. The ability to become a pure athlete is not there. So when you are taken out and distilled into T-test, into vertical jump, into all these kind of things, these are just really kind of athletic skills, and you're not getting bogged down with play after play. Do remember that when an NFL play, you're working for a very short period of time. If you do a drive and you're trying to be continuous, that's the hardest bit. I mean, I spoke to Hayden Smith about the NFL, because when I was 28, I spoke to NFL Europe. I wanted to go off and pursue it. I got an agent. I was talking to everyone, and then I ended up having to have knee surgery. And I made the decision that I was on a good salary at WAS. It was too much of a hard sell to be able to do it. I wanted to go and do like.
Would you have been a quarterback? What would you?
A linebacker is what I would have.
Punter.
A linebacker is what I wanted to do, or tight end potentially. But linebacker is what I would have wanted to do. Just smoking people. Wouldn't have had to thought about anything else apart from doing that. But these people have been living and breathing it. And remember, sometimes this is an opportunity for people to come out of poverty, to change their lives, who've been playing it for a lifetime. You're playing at NFL with the details, every Hard Knock series you ever watch. The playbook's bigger than the Bible. The attention to detail, learning just to get past someone's hands, and the way you spin, and the way you set your feet, and the way you carry the ball. If you don't carry the ball correctly, they'll just shout at you. So I actually think it's a really positive move for Lewis Rees-Zammit. I think it's brilliant. I think it's exciting. I think if anybody can do it at 22 years old, he can bugger around. It's the right
time to try it.
Yeah, he can bugger around at this for 2 years, come back, still not be in his prime, still own a fortune, know rugby inside out, will become a better athlete because of it, will be a purer athlete because of it, will be more well-travelled, hopefully got some cash, and will have picked up a few skills on the way, and will have raised his profile. I think Christian Wade was too old going off and doing it. When these guys have been going to college, I think Tins's idea is amazing. Do that 10-week pathway. Between being put on a practice squad, which seems great, but half those blokes never make it. Go off and do a season, playing in front of 100,000.
I don't actually know whether that's possible or not.
I don't know. He's done a degree over here. Go and do a master's for a year. Imagine going to play in front of 60 to 100,000 at college. I'd sack off the missus straight away. She'd be gone.
You can get paid
jackets, keg apart. You get paid.
You get paid now at college, so you can make money off that.
You get sponsored through it. Carve up. Learn the game inside out, come back into the NFL, cash monies, dominate.
I love all of that, but Lewis, not all of us have to sack off our women, all right? So just one
that was an optional
right
thing. That was just my hypothetical, college ball days.
Right for you.
Yeah, stay in love school.
What did Gloucester say?
Look, I think there was a lot of umming and ahhing, because I think of the lateness of the approach to the possibility of doing this, and the fastness of whether he had a long time making the decision, but the turnaround from obviously Gats having to delay his Wales.
He was walking into the room. They said, "Can we have a word? You've just lost your razzle dazzle star winger."
Yeah, so look, there's an issue there. He's got to buy himself out of his contract. Obviously, he's contracted to Gloucester, so there is a legal ramification which he must have agreed. Well, I know he's agreed with Gloucester, but that shows that he's confident and he wants to do it. I mean, he's put a lot of pressure on himself. So unless he's bought himself out, or someone else has bought him out of the contract. So, whatever that deal was done there, so that puts a bit of pressure on. So he wants to do it, and fair play to him. It's the perfect time for him to go and try this. I think it's the right age. I think he's got the right skill sets to go and give it and best of luck to him. And worst case scenario for us and rugby is he comes back a better athlete for us to watch on the biggest stages again.
Yeah. Interestingly, Harry Malander, who many of you will remember from Northampton, he's actually been out in Japan as well, and Dara Leader of Connacht are both into the player pathway as well, both as kickers.
Again, that's even a mega job. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit.
It's a ruthless job.
It's a ruthless job because you don't make them 2 pointers, you're stuffed. But what a job! Paid mega cash. You don't get filled in unless you remember. There's that punt.
Should connect Harry with the Scottish Claymore or
the Hammer.
The Hammer. Scottish Hammer.
Is he still going well?
Yeah, he's still playing.
Still hammering it.
He's still in the Giants. Yeah.
Interesting. You look at some of the other names. You mentioned Hayden Smith, who made the NFL active roster and then rejoined Sarries. Jared Hayne, Obviously played 8 times in the NFL for San Francisco 49ers before things went a little off the rails. Alex Gray, Atlanta Falcons, now in Gladiators.
Yeah.
As Apollo.
It's a real weird thing to make that active squad, but then still to give it up, because there is a lot of just standing around and not having any game time. It's just.
And do you know what they said? It was I watched some interview the other day that said kind of obviously in the way the week works, if you've got your starters, they run most of the routes, so they'll get the plays.
You might reps
or the reps. You might get 1 or 2 reps, but then everyone complains about them. But if you ran those reps, someone was saying this, if you ran those reps as like they would do or die, the biggest moment of your life, you just run it and execute it. That's kind of the way you do it. You see the people who are like chip away at it and who've got the mental ability to deliver and wait, they'll make it. So I'm excited.
Christian Scott Williamson, I think made it to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think now has gone into law. Christian Wade, you've touched on. Jordan Mailata's the big poster boy for rugby into NFL. He was a Rabbitohs under-20 player. Has now won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. Interesting, I saw him on the Kelsey Brothers podcast, a clip of him saying he thought NFL players were tougher than rugby players.
They were tougher.
He would say that.
I would say that. Well, he's got to say that. But also, I think people always forget about this with rugby versus NFL.
$64 million contract.
What I would do with that.
Yeah, dread to think.
What I do.
You wouldn't survive a week.
I'd have a good go at it, though.
But this is, I think, NFL players are tough. They're getting hit 360 degree. They don't know where it's coming from. If you're on the front line, you're pushing. You could get run into at the back of your knee. You
get hit without the ball.
You don't know where it's coming from. Someone will fold your knee from the side because there's just unpredictable collisions just happening around you, and you're trying to concentrate on what you're doing. And plus, it's barbaric. It's how I think our league should be set up. It's a 16-week season. Everyone plays best team every single week, and you go toe to toe, and the best will survive. And that's how I think our league should be set up.
There's no junior leagues. There's no. It's just like
you're out.
This is it.
And they've got big squads, so they get through it. You know your role. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, you don't. Razzmatazz, cash monies, cheerleaders, and cheermen. I imagine anything you want.
Good luck.
Cheer them.
Rees-Zammit. We're hopefully going to have him on the pod again. Actually.
I mentioned it to him. He'd like to come on. He's just trying to. It's a good thing that he said. He's like, look, I'd love to, but I'm head down for 10 weeks. So he's going to go. But he has said he'll send us footage and bits and bobs. So we'll keep an eye on him and keep supporting him as any way we can.
Talking of people who are heading to pastures new, Joe Schmidt has taken on the role of Wallaby head coach until after the Lions tour. On paper, it looks a brilliant move. I went to the Lions head coach announcement.
Did you?
As Andy Farrell.
You would have been in your
absolutely
sort of
back in the sweet spot.
Mecca, wouldn't
you? But I asked a fairly stupid question, which was, what sort of challenge do you expect from Australia for a ship that looks utterly rudderless? And a week later, they take on Joe Schmidt, and suddenly it's like, oh, that's got some.
Did you see that coming? I didn't see that coming.
I'd read a couple of bits and bobs. And they were talking about Stephen Larkham, etc. But Schmidt was definitely being.
Yeah, when I was in Australia, I happened to be. There was someone from Rugby Australia there, and they were saying that they were quite close to getting someone.
Really?
And I was like, and I was just throwing names out. I didn't actually throw Joe Schmidt out there.
That's what I mean. That wasn't on the horizon. We talk about Dave Rennie coming back or somebody.
Yeah, but everywhere he goes, he makes teams better. So he's won the top 14.
Was he still part of New Zealand?
I think they were all done after the Rugby World Cup.
Right, okay. I didn't realise that, so I never even thought about it because I thought he was still in for that.
Right. Ian Foster.
Right.
And I think Razor Robertson's bringing in a whole new crew. But if you look at what Schmidt's done, he won the top 14 with Claremont after years and years and years of failure for Claremont. Back-to-back Heineken Cups with Leinster, 2011-12. Pro 12 title in 2013. 3 Six Nations titles with Ireland, including a Grand Slam. Took them to number 1 in the world in 2019, and then a runner-up last year, obviously, with Rugby World Cup with the All Blacks as attack coach. There was a really interesting line, I thought, from Phil Waugh, who said Joe's experience with Ireland and New Zealand, two of the most aligned rugby nations in the world, will no doubt prove valuable as we move forward. So they've got a man who's run a sort of centralised team before, but Christ, he's got a lot of work to do, hasn't he? Where does he start?
Look, but he's got a pretty good blank canvas to go at. I think he's got to. I think he's also got to include the wider there's a grassroots problem over there.
Yeah.
And I think he's got to get into those rugby playing schools, and he's got to start trying to identify talent as well.
Yeah.
Whilst trying to just get that young group of players that he's got singing off the same hymn sheet.
Do you stick with what Eddie Jones did at the World Cup in removing the likes of Michael Hooper and Quade Cooper?
Looking at what he did with Ireland, I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll try and get some experience in there.
Matt Kitto's back.
Yeah. He's off the MLR. I'm not sure that he'll necessarily go that far back in the calendar.
I still think Hoops has got a lot to offer the game. I think Eddie said that he was bad for the group, which I can't believe in any why you would say that. But so I think they'll try and lean on some experience, whether it be Bernard Foley, just to try and help Carter Gordon or whatever. But I think he's got two big jobs. That's to reconnect the grassroots with the Wallabies. Very hard to be done. It's sort of owned by the NRL and the AFL at the moment. And then he's got to find. I don't think he's not got the Irish team that he had in the past, where he could just try and stabilise everything and build the building blocks that he did for Ireland in terms of how they played and everything else.
You mean like meticulous kick chase, high balls.
Yeah. So he's going to try and do that, but he's also got to, if he's going to have this young team, he's got to make use of that youth as well. Yeah. So I think it's a challenge for Joe Schmidt, but I think everywhere Joe Schmidt's gone, he's actually had success. So,
and I don't think he has. If you were to talk about, say, Warren Gatland, for example, he has quite a blueprint of the way he does things. Yeah. Joe Schmidt, obviously, with Ireland was the most recent. Well, New Zealand was the most recent thing, but again, they're a completely different outfit, the way they play and their ability. Yeah. Ireland, they became very, very good at particular things. I think what he offers is a real stabilisation of the ship, very controlling about the media, very controlling about what the players say, and kind of manages it. Very meticulous over detail. Yep. And I think it's exactly what Australia need. I think he's a quality coach. I'll be very interested to see what style of play he brings, because again, I think he's probably a believer in picking a style that suits your team, as opposed to going, this is the only way I can play. If I don't coach it, I don't know how to coach it. So I couldn't think of a better person to do the job, really.
It's a wonderful story. It's not really my story to tell, but Shane Hawken tells a brilliant story about being in a team meeting with Leinster, and they're going through analysis on the big screen, and all the players are sort of sitting around, and he's going through, and Joe Smith's really sort of on point, and someone flings a ball at Brian O'Driscoll, which is sort of down at his bootlaces, and he doesn't quite take it, and he just stops it. He goes, "Great players, take that," and then just presses play, and everyone just goes, "Oh wow!" So like literally no one was safe. I think Brian just sort of sat there and went, "Whoop, okay." Yeah. But I think, the other thing that I think is really interesting is that Australia at their best are such a detailed team. Yes. They play rugby with real high IQ, and he is exactly that as a coach.
When I played for the Highlanders, that was the interesting kind of thing. New Zealand with the hybrid, unbelievable athletes, ability to, when they did beat you, would more often score. Physical. South Africa by far and away the most physical. Australian side's very, very systematic, and if you could interfere with the system, they were 3 phases ahead. So if you stopped them, the players were already around the corner, so you could then take the space elsewhere. So that's how you could interrupt them. So they've obviously gone away from that a little bit. I mean, look, I think it'd be great.
But I think the game's moved on from that. They were so analytical. You go back to the Institute of Sport; they were miles ahead, and then I think the game's moved on a little bit. So, but you can take credit in. I don't think Joe Schmidt's going to go off the radar like Eddie, and he's still going to build building blocks, but then what I'm really interested to see is if he takes on the spirit of the youth and finds them, because they've got some unbelievable players.
UDEM can do it.
That Lions tour has suddenly got a really, really juicy subplot to it now.
Yeah. Especially when we're out of the Australian Tourist Board.
Yeah, we are. We will. Okay, so let's go from Joe Schmidt then. Good luck, particularly in the Bledisloe this year. That's suddenly got a lovely little subplot to it as well. Investec Champions Cup.
Yes.
And it sort of adds to the, I'm going to use the word bounce back ability, which I think was coined by Ian Dowie on Soccer Saturday about 20 years ago. It adds to the bounce back ability of rugby in this country.
Alan Partridge, needless to say, had the last laugh and definitely bounced back.
There's that too. We've got 6 of the 8 English teams into the round of 16, which is something the game desperately needs in this country.
Well, it's a bit of reinforcement of wearing the Rugby World Cup, how strong I think the Premiership's been, but for years we've we've looked good at Premiership level and then haven't stepped up in the Champions Cup. I know the new format allows a little bit of jeopardy in some ways because you can find a way.
Really
I mean, some teams have lost 2, maybe there might even be one in there that's lost 3. So, it affords a little bit of fortune, but I think it's been incredible to watch.
Here's a question for you. Are we seeing a better standard of rugby in the Premiership now we're down to 10 teams? Rather than that talent stretched across 12. But, well, is that my lobbing a grenade?
Snapshot!
But if you think about the players who have left Wasps, London Irish, Worcester, and have gone into the other Premiership teams, a lot of them have strengthened. I mean, Chandler Cunningham South, who we've spoken about in the England squad, is one of them. Went from London Irish to Quincy.
London Irish were a good team, weren't they?
Yeah, this is my point.
Yeah.
We've got a tighter concentration of talent now in 10 teams than 12, and we now have 6 teams into the last 16.
Well, we've always been banging on about that. Less teams, less games, more intensity, bigger squads. Teams are playing well. I think it goes to show. We're mixing Europe. The gap, again, it goes against the big exodus and panic and all the stuff in France are too good for us. And I'll be interested to see what happens when we get to the finals. But budgets are too big. We can't compete. I don't believe that. I think people just love a little negative story.
I think clubs have enjoyed not having to go home and away on all the games in the Champions Cup. I think they've quite enjoyed just going on those one-off games, and we've seen everyone just lay it out there. And there've been a lot a lot of close games too.
Those back-to-back games though. I
agree.
But
then
good.
And then but you actually are now having back-to-back games because a lot of them are they're playing each other in the last 16 or whatever.
Yeah, true.
Now whether that's I wasn't sure when I was going through it. Is that a joy or is that so you've got Leicester going to Leinster. You've got Munster, Northampton, which was an unbelievable game at the weekend. So you've got Bordeaux, Sarries, which is another repeat. You've got the Bulls and Lions, which is a repeat. You've got Stormers, La Rochelle, which is a repeat of obviously La Rochelle having to go back out there and try and sort of redeem themselves.
I love
now,
this.
Does that make it interesting, or does that make it? I'm not sure where I sit with it. Would I? Because I did read something the other day about. Why don't we? Nick Mullins was saying, why don't we do it in an old FA?
And I love that.
I like that idea.
Balls it used to be, so you could rig the draw.
Really,
they used to warm the balls. Apparently, allegedly, back in the day. So you would do a cold ball followed by a hot ball.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. Hot balls, cold
balls.
That's
a massive shout there. I mean, I don't know if the legal team's going to let that go through.
Allegedly. Can I get away with that? Anyway, let's not do hot balls and cold balls. Yeah. But Nick, I think
it's a great idea. I will say this though. Just one caveat to this. England are playing great, but when you saw Bath, for example, play against Toulouse, and that Toulouse were pretty amazing. Do you know what I mean? And I think when we get down to those final games, that's perhaps when you're going to see the flex of it. The Bulls, the flex. I think Bordeaux, obviously, they're taking Saracens apart like they did was pretty mad. I think Northampton, Munster. What lessons will be like? There's very few chances.
Yeah, and obviously we've got the 6 of the 8 in the last 16. But in the old format, it would go straight into a quarterfinals, wouldn't it? So let's see how many are left in the quarterfinals.
I think we less than you think, but I think they're still good.
Calm down, dear. It's only a commercial.
Calm down.
The Conti question of the week actually ties into the Investec Champions Cup, which is what was your take on the red cards in the Champions Cup this weekend? There are a couple of them kicking about actually. Northampton's Curtis Langdon, Bristol's Josh Caulfield. Any strong views on that?
Well, my snapshot is ridiculous.
Right, okay. That was the Conti question of the week.
But I just think I'm just not sure what we are now as a game. What are we trying to prove as a game? That something that is completely accidental, but if someone gets hurt with it, it's now a red card. Is that really where we're going to go with the game? Like, red cards are supposed to be for malice or supposed to be for intentional stuff. The Beelum boot to the face, he takes one in his face as he's doing it, which completely changes his... Carl Sinclair basically judo chops him in the chin, and as he's trying to step over someone, and basically rocks him backwards, so his step isn't as long, and he catches someone else in the eye.
But also, what you got to say, why
he gets someone else in the eye, and it's just like it's the most bizarre And
someone's got to go there in that instance.
But that's ridiculous.
I think you should give him like a yellow card.
Well, why? It's just like, wow, that's unlucky.
Well, I know that, but
Beelan ended up getting up, and there's nothing really wrong with him. Yeah. Is it just because it hits him in the head that it's a whole head thing? This is ridiculous. It's getting to a point where it is ridiculous now. Yes, we've got to be safe, but you have to understand this game is good. If you went through with a fine-tooth comb in slow-mo every part of this game, you'd find... no one would be on the field.
Actually, I saw one bit before
it'd be like,
that.
If we could possibly get 15 from the crowd to come and join in, everyone's in the bin.
I did see where it was a Northampton guy need him. I don't. The problem is there's some physical action, like the guy stepping over. Like you see his leg, he goes shorter than he thinks, and he doesn't look. And it's like you'd have to be a complete serial killer to like think you could stamp on someone's head and do it.
If you think about that Northampton game where Sam Graham scores that try at the end, and Antoine Frisch slides it in for that literally there is no reason for him to even slide with his knees in front of him. If you're going to try and stop the ball, dive at him with your head and your arms, and yet he catches him in the chin. Sam Graham doesn't really make a big deal of it. He obviously clips him because he stays down for a little bit, and then nothing's looked at that. So this is where it gets this is where it's getting ridiculous. And it doesn't, that neither of those, in my opinion, yes, they both ended up injured. Now it seems to be if someone ends up injured, it's definitely foul play. It's not. You can, you play a very, very physical game that accidents happen. And for the reason for a red card to say, the first one was clearly accidental. The second one we can't really figure out, but the player's injured, so it's a red card. When did the game get there?
Don't know. Thank you, Davey96, for starting that fire. That was our continental question of the week, to be continued on a week-by-week basis, I would imagine.
Can I just go back to that? I'm just thinking.
Jesus, Davey,
But shouldn't that be a point where you could put someone on report? Yes. And they can look into it a bit more.
Great shout.
It should be. I don't know. Do you know what? I've honestly got one question. I don't understand how World Rugby can still operate. And they just still can't make any of these decisions. It would be the easiest thing. No contact in training, mandatory time off, get rid of some of these crap tournaments, and make her a fucking report card. It's one of them's just been given another knighthood for his extra extension. Re-knighted, double knight, triple knighted. What? Just fucking make a decision. It's not hard. I don't understand how you don't change it.
Knights of the Round Table, but never been the dead.
I don't understand. Just bring it on. It would change the game. Why can NRL, a game that notoriously has more violence than we do, is still operating, still a cool game to watch, more fun, more exciting, still a lot of violence in it, and they put people on a report. Why can't we do something like that?
We're trying to paint the picture of the comeback.
I just mean, why can't you? Why can rugby never make any fucking decisions? Why can it never do anything on time? Why does it take everything?
Because if Northampton lost that game with a red card, they still turned around and managed to end up winning it. But a travesty if you lose a game just because you've lost a player for something that's absolute bollocks and accident.
Okay. Black Eye of the Week, do you want to throw that out there?
Bill Beaumont.
Triple knighting, sir. I thought triple night was when you piss shit and was sick on yourself. Apparently it's not.
Right. I've never heard that. Have you never heard that? No, I've never heard that before. I achieved that in Japan.
No, they fought someone. That's like,
could you please give me a Black Eye of the Week? Time to ride the storms and celebrate the sunshine with our Black Eye of the Week. Every week a bottle goes to someone who we celebrate for alternative reasons or someone who needs a pick-me-up.
I'll throw out a Finn Smith drop goal.
Yeah, that's a lovely touch.
There's a man. I love that. I was going to say that was the tip of my tongue.
Okay. Finn Smith, congratulations to you. Black Eye Gin's available from Amazon. Selected Sainsbury's and Master of Malt. It has botanicals from every major rugby playing nation. One very special ingredient as well. £1.50 from every bottle sold goes into the Black Eye Rugby Fund, which is aiming to raise £1 million a year to help with the areas of risk, research and recovery within the game of rugby union. Swap a beer for your gin and tonic and help the game you love. It is seriously good stuff as well. Thank you to everybody who's bought bottles and been involved with that. We've got a couple of other bits to do very quickly. Live show, let's tell you about that because the Six Nations is imminent. And next Monday, the 29th of January, you can join us at the Underbelly Boulevard in Soho for a one-off live recording of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby. It is the Guinness Six Nations preview with special guests Ben Kayser from France, John Fox-Davies from Wales, Rory Lawson of Scotland, and Shane Horgan of Ireland.
And James Haskell from Italy.
And James Haskell from Italy. Head to underbellyboulevard.com/tickets/the Good, the Bad, the Rugby. I'm sure hopefully someone will stick a link in the T's and C's of this. If you haven't caught up with the Good Scouts rugby team yet in 2024, do go and have a little listen and a look at their recent content with Jill Burns, which marks 30 years since the Red Roses won the World Cup for the first time. And the girls have also been shortlisted for the Best Rugby Podcast at the Sports Podcast Awards. They've had a great year with some sensational guests. And if you're a fan of the show and a fan of the new series of Gladiators on the BBC, go back and have a listen or a watch to the episode with Jodie Ounsley.
The Jodie Ounsley one is a good episode.
That is a very good episode. Please do vote for them actually as well for Best Rugby Podcast at the sportspodcastgroup.com/sports_category/Best Rugby Podcast.
They better win because they're bloody awesome.
Actually, they should win.
And actually, they love the gin. I got a few messages from
Scaz.
Yeah, Scaz.
Yeah.
Very excited about the gin.
Enjoy your rugby this weekend. We have been the Good, the Bad and the Rugby in partnership with our very good friends at Continental Tires. Stats and facts provided by Oval Insights and Tom Edwards at the points he was awake. We're a Folding Pocket production, and this episode was produced by Tom Edwards. See you next week.